Hello and welcome to So Farscape,
a fun-filled Farscape fancast by a fervent fan
and a fresh-faced first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay, and this is the story So Farscape.
So Farscape, we have seen our hero John Crichton, the science jock, who was slung through a wormhole into some distant part of the universe onto a ship.
A living ship.
Full of
aliens.
Strange alien
Strange
life forms.
aliens,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, you're fine, you're getting there. Such as...
the lovely Zahn.
Oh, yes.
She is shining, literally.
The blue glow.
The big hero Tentacles, Dargo, sorry.
Yes, very good.
Always cantankerous Rigel, Domina Rigel, I should say.
Domina Rigel the 16th.
I'm sure he would protest if he was called anything else. And of course, I think my favorite still is Pilot.
Yeah, I'm so glad, because mine too. Like, he's such a dreamboat, really.
He is little. He's always like, well, happy to serve and just like pottering about in his huge control system and just like poking things and pressing his huge buttons and controlling Moya and flying her about the universe.
He's the one who seems like he has something to do, like he has something to keep himself busy with.
Yes. I mean, I suppose he's like running Moya on a daily basis and keeping things running smoothly, managing the scuttlebots.
You know, I wonder, literally now this second, you know that I'm a long-time fan. Like, 22 years, I've been watching it since it aired, and literally today it has occurred to me, you know, if I was Pilot and like I was performing some functions with Moya, and I had been doing that for a while, and it's actually not that much work, I still probably would say that it was a lot of work.
Of course.
So I wonder if maybe Pilot's like actual functions are just, you know, occasional, just every few hours to change the litter box or whatever like you do for a cat. Yeah. And that the rest of the time he's just playing Space Sudoku.
Yeah, he could just be sitting there with all four of his arms folded behind his back, like looking, oh shit, that thing came on, I have to push some buttons.
Yeah. Or maybe that's not even a control system. Maybe that's just like a space Xbox with the Donkey Kong bongos.
I mean, we know it is because in the last episode we actually saw Erin use it, who is actually the last member of crew, which we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, that's right. She did pretty okay on this control system. But at the same time, I mean, we have computers, right? And they have keyboards and mice or a touch interface, which you use to perform the necessary functions of the computer and also to play Minesweeper.
True.
But how much would it explain how sometimes short and snippy he is with the crew when they ask him an inane question that he was just knee deep in a crossword or playing Othello against some other Leviathan pilot online? Maybe they have their own internet.
Oh, that'd be great. Like a forum board where they can just like talk about things and have their own little virtual reality meetup point where they can just like talk about. And I mean, how many Leviathans are there? We really don't know. They've not yet encountered another one. I mean, we know Moya is pregnant. So does that require another Leviathan, or is that just something that they can do? Or are we talking about space humping?
Is this making you horny?
Well, okay, very good question, because that's something we discovered last week. Last week's episode was the big reveal that someone on board is pregnant, and it's the ship. It's the ship. So here's something that I clued into that I hadn't noticed before. When they're investigating the... what do we call it? The wetter than fairy dust, I think it was called.
Yes.
That came out of the thing that was installed by the Peacekeepers to prevent, I guess, the pregnancy from occurring. All that was identified as not just biomechanoid, but specifically, Zahn said, it was part of Moya.
They're actually made up of Moya's genetic material.
Yes.
They are a part of Moya.
So it was not Moya.
Right. It might have just been hormones or something, you know, flushing through her system.
But so it was not, you know, boy Leviathan jizz. That was...
Okay,
I'm trying to use the scientific terminology here. It's boy Leviathan jizz, which is the other component for what we know as...
Yeah, I mean, she was already pregnant, so that any of that would have been like long served its purpose.
See, but that's the question. Was she already pregnant and was the pregnancy postponed? Or was her pregnancy caused by the fairy dust?
Oh, well, I mean, that would have gone awfully quick then if it had, because that thing was like, you know, that... embryo, let's call it, was suddenly already quite big when we saw it. So I would think it was postponed and like held back by the Peacekeeper device, but that would
I
just
don't know any creatures that can do that.
Oh yeah, lots can.
That have an actual, like, because it wasn't like a zygote. It was just it was a full-on fetus, but looking by the size of it, like multicellular.
Yeah, lots of species can like postpone a pregnancy.
Halt it?
Yeah,
Oh,
they can
okay.
just store it, keep it alive, like prevent it from further developing, and like we'll get onto that when the circumstances are better for it. So yeah, that definitely happens.
All right. Well, we did see in one of the space shots of Krace's fleet, there were several Leviathans.
Oh,
but it's blink and you'll miss it. It's kind of a
thing in the background. Yeah, that makes sense.
So this week's episode is Season 1, Episode 11.
Till the blood runs clear.
Written by Douglas Hayes Jr., who I don't know has done much in general, but Tony Tilse is back, or Tilse. He did PK Tech Girl.
Ah, the director.
Yes, and he's one of the regulars that will show up a few times, and he sort of introduced with PK Tech Girl, as you recall, like a really important sort of tone. I think Ben Browder talked about it, like the Tilsification of Farscape had started, and he's back in force with that blend of action, world building, character, all that. Oh,
how common is it in series like this for there to be multiple directors per episode and stuff like that? I have no idea. I mean, I know Star Trek has different directors.
For television, it's very common. In fact, like I've been a genre nerd for a while. So sometimes I'll notice directors appearing in multiple shows.
Yeah. I noticed they do it for Doctor Who as well. You have different writers and different directors for various episodes.
Well, you kind of have to. Like writing an episode is.
Right,
I mean, aside from being a lot of work, there's also like the guild.
Involved,
requires, and with a weekly television program, they were doing 22 of these episodes a year.
Yes, very true. And then you have basically have half a year to shoot them all in and then prepare everything. And,
right, because you want the actors working like every week, but every episode requires like pre-production meetings and design that the director has to be involved in. So, one will be in production, one will be in pre-production, one will be in post-production and stuff like that.
So around that same time in the So Far Back Machine, we haven't...
yes, and this was Friday, 9th of July, 1999.
Yes.
I'm just providing that so they have the smooth transition.
into the So Far Back Machine. And
which I really like, yes. So
we have another movie about aliens from space.
Oh, yeah.
It was The Muppets from Space was released almost at the same time.
Oh, wow. There is so many more like parallels here.
Oh, yeah. Which were actually the first movie that the Jim Henson Company made after the death of Jim Henson.
Jim
himself.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so that was the...
Because the previous one had been, I guess, Muppets Treasure Island with...
Ooh, I think so.
Tim...
Or was it late?
What's
Tim Curry.
Curry, yeah.
Not Tim
Upstage,
Burton.
boys.
Yes.
Show him you've been practicing. This is my only number. I'm so sorry. I haven't actually seen Muppets in Space, but I have seen Muppets Treasure Island. So.
Well, Muppets in Space it's mostly about Gonzo, who's always been listed as a whatever for his species.
Yeah, we have a bear and a frog and a whatever.
Exactly, and he's like turns out that he's an alien, and there's like the whole thing. He gets struck by lightning,
Right,
and then
to
he can
his great
communicate with the
surprise.
fish aliens, and he's kidnapped by the federal agents or something who work for a institution called CovNet. Which is
That actually sounds familiar.
COVNET. It's never actually explained what the acronym stands for. It's just like CovNet. It's just
It actually sounds familiar, honestly.
Okay.
Like, isn't that not a NASA thing, but like SETI? The
SETI.
Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Yes.
It sort of feels we've got listeners at home who are probably Googling this now and
But no,
getting ready to angry tweet.
CovNet, it is actually on the Muppet Wikipedia. It is actually said as it is not known what CovNet stands for.
It is
specifically,
I like that.
Yes. It is never explained. But yeah, it turns out he is actually an alien, and other aliens who look just like him show up, and in the end he decides to stay back home with his Muppet friends.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's an interesting parallel, both the fact that it's also Jim Henson Productions, of course,
and that it's a fish out of water.
Yep. Although he's
an
on
alien
Earth.
among aliens.
Yep. A Stranger in a Strange Land, although that was a Heinlein book. And I don't know if it was ever... no, I'm thinking of What's-His-Face on Mars, who was...
John Carter.
John Carter on Mars, yes.
That got a film that was
I know.
not great.
I didn't see it, but I know about it. But yeah.
As I recall. Also, like, how long does one's super strength last in a low-gravity environment?
Yes. Also, the most interesting thing about... I always thought about Stranger in a Strange Land, that's where the word grok comes from.
Oh, wow. As in to comprehend.
Yes, to completely comprehend. And it's the word they use for drinking water. It's like because it becomes a part of you.
Oh, wow. I like that. Certainly on what was supposed to be an arid environment like Mars,
yes.
that would, yeah.
Prepare to starburst!
And we open with a scene of the pod
Out in space.
Out in space, we have John's little space
Farscape 1, yeah.
What they refer to it constantly as the
module.
The module, yes.
It's the Farscape module.
Module.
The module.
My module.
The frill with Crichton's precious module.
Which is kind of weird in space terminology, because a
I
module
think so, yeah.
is a bit that you put on another bit.
Part of a system.
Yeah, right.
It's been retrofitted with parts from Moya, and it's got like thrusters, and it's like zooming along like at a rate of knots. It's also been converted to a two-seater because we have Crichton and Aaron both sitting in having a vicious battle over
the switch!
Of
the
the
switch
switches.
that does everything.
Yes, they're like constantly pushing two switches up and down.
Just putting it back the whole time. We have no idea what it is, but he has to reach over her shoulder and turn it on, and she notices, oh, this is wrong again, and just flips it back.
Yes.
Hey, flip that switch again.
It goes back and forth a few
It's
times.
like in Fireflies, the switches that do everything. Yeah, I noticed that there's when you look behind Crichton's head, behind his seat, you've got some of like Moya-looking filigree.
Yes,
you know, some of the sort of organic Gaudi style.
Right, but what they do mention that like it was Moya's parts which have been fitted onto the module, and that they are now making use of that
because he's not burning his chemical fuel. His little craft has a bunch of like I call them they're called propulsors on the outside that are glowing, and that's giving it some get up and go. Like his opening line is, "This thing rocks."
Yeah.
Baby, this thing rocks!
Because apparently the local star is doing solar flares, and they're doing some more research into the wormhole, which the ship supposedly opened up. So he's like doing some flying around back on the old flight patterns that he had been calculating back at home.
Yeah, you can see the sort of compression, the bow wave of fire as he's using the atmosphere, using that same sort of
decelerate to accelerate type thing.
Slingshot,
At
which
least
is not
slingshotting.
how you...
Yeah.
That's not how you slingshot.
And they're coordinating with Pilot, whom I noticed has seemed to become a little bit more mobile. It's like I noticed that he was much more animated when he moved. He seemed
his body turns.
Yes,
a lot more.
And
than...
there's more like head movement, and again they've upgraded his visuals a little bit. They're showcasing him more, I would say.
Well, yeah, I mean he's one of the most complicated puppets that the Henson Company has ever produced. Like all of those arms have to interact with the space around them. He's got his giant. I mean, he is huge and so expressive in his face. The lips and the cheeks and the brows, the eyes, they telescope. There's so much expression. Of course, like he is kind of my favorite on the
yes,
ship.
he's definitely
he's my total hero. So yeah, he's busy playing Donkey Kong bongos. You can't see his screen, and he's just...
I don't think he has a screen in none of the other shots that we've ever seen of the area. He doesn't. He just has that big panel in front of him, and I mean he has tendrils throughout the ship, so I guess he doesn't really need a screen. He can just feel his way around Moya.
That's kind of a good point. Like his head appears in holographic form in all those clamshells, but does he even see anybody who's talking back to him?
Don't know. I mean, maybe they have little holographic representations on his panel, and we never see that. But yeah. Also, we also don't see anything which is happening outside the Farscape 1, because all the shots are just like in the cockpit. It's all up close shots of Erin and Crichton flying the thing, and suddenly there's a solar
Bickering.
flare.
Oh, yeah.
And Zahn seems to be loving it. She's like rubbing her hands all over the fondle slab, and she is just
she's
like
fingering the Ouija board.
She is glowing.
Oh, I love her just expression and how calm she is, and that she's delighted and she's fine. And Pilot's like he exhibits a note of caution, like we should be careful, and she goes, no, it's fine, it's well within tolerances.
Yes. Oh well, for Moya, but maybe not for the baby Leviathan.
And that's when she snaps out. Like, no, you're right. She's get back in the shadow.
Immediately back to responsibility, like take it back.
She does have a little afterglow after there. Going, that was good.
For a moment there, I thought her golden spots were actually shining a bit more than they were before, but I thought it might just be an effect of the lighting, but it was probably done quite deliberately.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, she's got a sort of golden light from below.
Yep.
And that looks great.
Yeah, less responsible acting is Crichton, who sees actually a wormhole form. He taps like Aaron on the shoulder and goes like, "Oi, look over there, there's a wormhole."
Looks out the window at this blue, we've called it a space toilet before. It's a sinkhole. It looks so liquid and aquatic and chaotic. Like the aperture is going all over the place.
It's shrinking and growing, and he's just having this like spaced out look into it. And it cuts to the opening credits scenes.
Yes. Now, I know we don't have much to say about the opening credits, but this was the first time that I heard you singing along to the la 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 la. No, I think yeah. Because one of the great joys of watching Farscape with someone is that you go through the credits and at the end you do the high note together.
Back on the wormhole, Crichton is sorely tempted to fly this craft right on through. You can see that he's torn,
spaced out.
Yeah, and Aaron's going, "It's unstable. You can't do this."
Crichton, look at it. It isn't stable.
Yeah, it's not clear, like, who's actually driving the craft. Like, she's in the front position. That should be the pilot. Normally, it's in a two-seater craft. Like, rear is usually navigation, weapons, maybe.
Yeah.
But she's relying on him for the thrusters. He's the one who has to fire the reverse thrusters. That seems weird.
It is. I mean,
it's a division of.
It's a botch. It's a botch job, anyways, because it was clearly not a two-man craft at first.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can do whatever you want. Maybe that's why they had to like pull the controls separate or something. But yeah, he's like sorely tempted to fly through the wormhole, but is swayed into zooming out through the fringe of it.
Through the membrane, like not a straight-on reversal, but he just guesses that apparently this is something you can cross. It looks like a watery surface.
It does throw the craft off its course a little bit. It does go spinning a little bit, and it apparently does a little bit of damage to it as well.
We have a problem. Pilot, I'm reading a plasma leak on the starboard propulsor. Can you confirm?
Yeah, one of those precious Moya components is now leaking plasma.
Yes. The pilot does not want him to return because it could be dangerous to Moya, and Aaron is like, no, we have to eject, and like
standard procedure is eject from the craft, and then the docking web would grab them.
Right, but he clearly doesn't want to give up on the module, and they decide to head for the planet.
Yeah, because Rigel, who has shown up, had been apparently on the horn before the
although he looks more like he was like having a nap or something.
He was. So that suggests that they've been flying around for a while. So he'd been talking to the locals. Aaron and Crichton went out to do their wormhole experiments, and then he went off to take a nap because he's got his lovely like bathrobe on again.
Yes.
I really like that.
It's better than his undies, so I'd rather see that. I also noticed that Dargo seems to have got himself a new outfit.
Oh yeah,
he's wearing his grumpy pants again because like.
Yeah. This is his. What color is that? Is that vermilion? It's maroon.
It's burgundy-ish, but it's not the. It's not the usual he's wearing. It's like almost the pajamas version of the red suit that he usually wears.
I think the big difference is he's not wearing like the leather strap across his chest that he usually. Where he usually kept his communicator, his comms.
But he's going all bossy again. He's like, oh, we can't stand for this. Like, oh, you might have to come back immediately, and we need to go.
Well, I am not going to trash my module if there's any chance to save it.
There isn't. Stop stalling. Crichton, I forbid this. Crichton!
He's even talking about leaving them behind.
Exactly.
Like they're on their own.
He's got his knickers in a twist about something.
Yeah, standing there big and tall. And even when Crichton, who refuses to ditch his craft and says that he's going to go down to the planet to get it fixed.
I forbid this.
Yeah. What do you think that's going to do?
Not really your position.
Yeah.
He's being all weird about this. But they get the coordinates from the person that Rigel was talking to, someone by the name of Furlow, I believe.
Furlow.
Name of Furball. Follows. Something like that. Furlow. Right.
We have a bit of a chat between Aaron and Crichton where she calls him to task for, hey, you were ready to fly through that, weren't you? And he goes, no, it was unstable. No, you were. And if it was stable, you would have gone through and you would have taken me with you.
Yeah. I mean, she's already fish out of water, but I can imagine that she wouldn't she has a very good point. He has no idea whether or not that wormhole will take him back home or take
anywhere
or if
it's survivable or whatever. That's not his decision to make for her. So, next time you're flying on your own, that would probably have been like the better decision anyway. But I guess like with the module recently having been fitted with new propulsion that he doesn't know how to work, she was giving him a driving lesson again.
And also like collecting data. So they decide to go to the planet, and we cut to a scene which is like somewhere out beyond the Dune Sea, apparently.
Stockton Sands, 2 hours north of Sydney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they'd been looking forward to shooting here for a while, and then they got there and they fucking hated it because it's so hot.
We're on the planet of the sunglasses this time.
Yes. No more ski hats. Everybody's on the sunglasses and shades and goggles.
And we see this person standing out in the sand and like sees the overhead craft coming in, and it cuts to a scene of a big city out in the background where there's like
So when I saw it at first, I thought it was like a mesa. Do you know what I mean? It sort of looks like it was hollowed out by the wind or whatever. But then you get a closer shot. No, those are all constructed.
Yeah, it's a huge city.
It looks so cool. And the I don't know. We never get a name for the species of the locals. It's just our local.
No, they're just humanoid.
Wearing some kind of woolly pink mask over the face, and
which I can imagine for would be against sand. And
shaded goggles.
Everybody's got like the super sand goggles and everything on.
White or off-white cowl, ivory-colored Jelaba gloves. A really cool sort of scanner. To see that, it doesn't look very futuristic. It's got all these dials.
It's very Star Warsy. It's like it looks used and functional.
Oh, it's just like a VCR, except easier.
Cut back to the soundstage where you actually did you notice the backdrop that the decoration
inside the garage
in the garage the backdrop it's got those like little square pattern things that we also saw in Maldis's
yes, I've seen them all over the place. It's the tiles that I recognize from Blade Runner.
Oh yes,
we saw them in Maldis's castle. They're here as well. They're on the outside. I loved Furlow's garage. Like it's such a cool space. You've got the light shining in. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. I don't know how many of these people are her employees or whether it's I
assume they're working
maker
for
space.
It. But yeah, they run the module in, and it apparently has universal couplers because someone immediately attaches a hose to it.
Yeah, a hose in the nose.
Yeah,
the nose. It's not even a nose. It's like a suction cup that goes over the nose. What is it doing?
I don't know. Maybe it's venting off the plasma that was leaking earlier, which was the dangerous part. So it makes sense that they do that. But we meet Furlow here, who is a goggle-wearing, orange-faced, Chin-Jockstrap wearing mechanic.
Go on now, do two more superlatives. What else you got?
Blue scarf.
And tiny eyes, tiny pupils.
No, she's got huge eyes. I think her irises are all white, or probably contacts, but you can kind of like see how the irises are much whiter than the sclera.
You've got screenshots here, like you zoom in. You've actually got like grayish brownish irises, but they're really tiny. Like her irises are about the size of regular humans' pupils.
But you can see what I mean. But then there's that white ring around it, and then
that's just a contact lens.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. Wouldn't I?
But like all these goggles, they're so great because they're not shaded glass. They've got
like
just
tiny little holes in it. Yeah.
Hey, which like camera obscura?
No, it
probably
works.
Work,
I mean, it's
right?
like it's better than nothing.
Maybe this is just how their species works. They have tiny openings in their eyes to deal with the light, and then that's how they solve problems.
Put another tiny, yeah. And that actor, like poor lady, she must have had such a crick in the neck after filming because she's constantly got her ear on one shoulder. So
she's doing the skeptical head tilt all the time, but also I don't know. And she's haggling and she's like overstating the capacity of her. Oh, no, it'll be fine. I'll take care of that. No problem.
Are you sure you've got it contained?
Oh, don't you worry about that. Old Furlow can handle it. Everything's going to be just fine. That's my motto. No other way, you dumb well-nits.
How long is it going to take you to fix it? Twice as long if you stick around.
Yeah. Swearing all the time. She's so grumpy. I know that I talked about like Namtar being one of my favorite characters. Actually, Furlow is probably my favorite from the first scene because she is so real. We know people like Furlow. Of course, any alien species, there would be a Furlow.
They were going to have that kind of like, especially in the mechanic's role and everything, because that's what you expect from a mechanic. It's a little bit haggly, a little bit sleazy. You know you're going to get...
you're going to get shafted.
But you don't know how much you're going to get shafted.
Exactly.
Shall we shaft it?
And she seems like the kind who's going to shaft you, reasonably.
Yeah. 60%.
70, 80 even.
She's not very impressed with
the craft, although she immediately offers to buy it.
Hardly looks space-worthy. Primitive alloys, no hedge drive. This thing belongs in a collection, not in space. Tell you what, How about I do you a favor and take this thing off your hands?
Yeah, well, that's also one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, this is an old piece of crap. I.e., I recognize this is an absolute classic.
Yeah.
This is a collector's item. Oh, this is trash. I'll trade it to you for a moped or something. Yes. Like, it doesn't even have a hatch drive, she says.
Oh, right. It can't travel at Hatch 4, yeah.
Yeah, which I guess is their, like, conventional FTL.
I guess so, yeah. Oh, I'm not sure. Like it was mentioned, I think in the combat scene when the Peacekeeper ship was shooting at them. They were like, it was mentioned that they were traveling at Hatch 7 or something like that. And I don't think that was a
well, I mean, we don't
FTL
have
scene. No.
we don't have any other propulsion other than Hatch or Starburst.
True,
and yet other spacecraft can get from planet to planet.
Yeah,
so they must be using Hatch drives.
Yeah,
so that
fair
must
point.
be.
Yeah. So she tosses them a pair of goggles, and they wander on outside of the city because, like, you've got this huge, enormous city towering over the sand. But no, we're just going to go like stand around at the base of this thing and like wander around and see what's going on here.
Yeah, well, that's where the shop is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to get your car fixed. You drive into, I don't know, name a big city, Barcelona, San Antonio, whatever. You drive in there. You want to get your car fixed. Do you drive like up La Rambla? Do you drive into the center? No. It's
but when you go out for a walk to
outskirts.
check out the scenery, you do go there, and you don't just go stand outside the shop at in the parking lot, which is essentially what they've been doing here.
Well, they don't get very far before they encounter
a message. There's
from a familiar
a holographic message plays, and it is what's his face again?
I am Captain Byala Crace.
I always forget his name.
Crace.
Captain Crace.
Captain Crace.
He's back in his Johnny Rocket hat.
And I am offering a substantial reward to anyone who can assist us in the recapture of 3 escaped prisoners.
A big bounty is offered for the 3 fugitives. Yes, and they're standing there watching like, okay, this is going to be good.
3.
And it turns out that the 3 escaped prisoners that he's after are Rigel, Zahn, and Dargo. And not a word of mention about Crichton or Erin.
It's not hard to figure out why, says Aaron. Obviously, Crace has his own plans for Crichton. Mm-hmm. I do think it's interesting that he mentions about these fugitives that are wanted for violating their parole.
These 3 fugitives from Peacekeeper custody have violated their parole.
That seems odd.
Right?
Yeah.
He's essentially like a prison warden. They don't want to admit to anyone escaping under their watch.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I think in the Firefly film Serenity was mentioned, like, no security company would ever report the theft of their own payroll because they'd look incompetent.
Very much so. The moment the transmission is over, we see 2 toothy figures with red eyes coming into...
Yes!
And I totally didn't get that because they immediately laser focus on Erin and Crichton.
Yeah.
But... there was no reason for them to do so. It's like...
No.
It seemed completely arbitrary for like, okay, we need to advance the plot here. And they start focusing. They start harassing them. Like they have a reason. They have zero reason to do this.
Actually, I think they do.
Oh,
okay. So they approach Aaron and John, who are intimidated a little bit by these scary figures approaching them with weapons, and then John big dogs right back.
Oh yeah,
on instinct.
They get threatened a little bit with weapons, and then he seems.
Oh yeah, and the Vorcarian female she attacks Aaron
because is this your female? And Aaron goes like, I'm nobody's female, and then immediately goes, well, in that case, she's up for grabs. Yeah,
killer. Yeah, they're very violent, and he goes, what do you think you're doing? Take your hands off her, and they back down.
Back off! Get that weapon out of my face before I feed it to you.
Immediately, yes.
He claims that they're also bounty hunters. That must have been what Rorg and Rorf, as they're called, were thinking. They saw them looking at this bounty message.
Okay, and you thought
the attitude must have been like, "Hey, back away! That's ours."
Competition, right? That makes sense.
Which John then flips.
Yeah. And
because they haven't been mentioned.
Yeah, he immediately figures out that they're quite sensitive to being overbluffed. The alpha dog thing, which he is, as he specifically calls it later on.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because of their look. They have a sort of, I guess, squat kind of. I mean, you look at them up close. Yeah. It sort of look like Chihuahua faces.
I suppose. I mean, they call
Or maybe
themselves,
chinchilla.
They call themselves blood trackers.
Vorcarian blood trackers.
I mean, chinchillas
yeah.
are very different from chihuahuas.
Yes.
Chinchillas are soft and like cuddly, and chihuahuas are just like.
You ever seen a close up of their face when they're doing the?
No,
I guess shaved manners as well. Maybe they have shaved chinchillas because I really like their outfits.
Oh yeah, the orange and brown fuzzy clothes.
Yeah, they got all these frills hanging off them. They've got the sort of leather tabards, but they're very well put together. There's a clear design there. They have all these like metallic highlights and the sort of medallion at the neck and the seventh chakra. I noticed that there's a male and the female, and the male, like his abdomen is sort of not exposed, but see the tabard has sort of a gap in the abdomen, and hers is constant in the abdomen, showing like a bit of sexual dimorphism. And they've got all this hair hanging off them as if they shaved like a yak or a...
Yeah, always showing their teeth.
Yeah, red eyes. And their hair. They've got grey in their hair. They've got long black hair with grey in it, suggesting like...
They've been around for a while. Yeah.
They reminded me of Tubbs and Edward from the League of Gentlemen.
Yes, they did. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely. It was also the slightly upturned nose, which helps. It helps a lot there, but it's.
I'm sure there's only a very small section of our audience who has seen the League of Gentlemen and knows who Tubbs and Edward are, but also the sort of scheming, the cannibalism, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of thing going on, but yeah, he basically almost like gets them to work for him. It's like,
how good are you two? Because I might be willing to cut you in.
Yes, he claims to be Butch, and he calls Erin Sundance.
Yes.
Which is fun, because her Sun is her surname.
Yes. I thought it was more like reference to the whole...
no, I know.
The solar flares thing is also a thing which is big in this episode. So
deep.
Hence, I thought that was a fun connection. Meanwhile, on the ship, Zhaan is having the time of her life.
Yeah, we see her clothes splayed out. She's apparently on the terrace, which we don't see.
Not this time, no.
I don't think we ever get to see the terrace again.
No, not this. Oh, I wouldn't know. But
it is an unwieldy, apparently, place to film. But yeah, when we see her sort of clutching at the ground in ecstasy.
So what was it called again? A solargasm?
Photogasm.
A photogasm, that was it, yes.
She's gone completely farbots.
Yes, Delvian females are unusually sensitive to ionic radiation.
One of the gifts of the Delvian Seek. It's called a photogasm.
Ugh, I'll get a mop and bucket.
Now, what's interesting is that she says it's one of the gifts of the Delvian Seek, which is her religious practice. Now, that seems like weird, because we've seen some of the gifts that she's talked about, like the ability to inflict pain and
take pain.
Share it. Yes, exactly. But apparently, the ability to come from sunlight is
solar
something
flares, not just sunlight.
You're right. You're right. It is particularly the solar flares. So she's indisposed.
Quite so. Rigel and Dargo have a little bit of snippiness at each other again, as they are wont to do.
Yeah, they've had a few good bits throughout here. Like earlier on when John called Dargo a pain in the ass, and everyone else had to translate for him.
Yeah, so was that. It's like, it's a human thing. It's like,
what is a pain in the ass?
It's someone who's annoying. And then Rigel helpfully goes, yes, an idiot.
Someone irritating, stubborn, obnoxious.
A simpleton. A dolt. Idiot.
I get the idea.
Moron.
Oh, no, there's more.
Yes, he just...
and Dargo decides to go down to the planet and deal with this problem himself.
Yes. I mean, he's going to take charge and be a man about it, I suppose. So, Erin, Crichton, and the Bloodhounds... the Blood Trackers, are sitting somewhere in the city. They have somehow managed to source some firewood on this... You've got this huge city, and there's ships flying around with anti-grav units, or at least other propulsion. But no, they're just like, they've managed to find some wood. We've not seen a tree yet in this entire episode.
No, right? And where would that come from?
And yet they're still sitting there burning some wood, roasting some meat, I suppose.
Yep.
With a lovely little Christmas tree torture device in the background.
Yeah, it's a lovely sort of framing. You have a cage in the foreground, you have their sort of meal campfire, and then you have the torture rack in the background while they're chatting about their skills. They're negotiating about how they're going to divvy up the...
Yes.
And, like, John is still big dogging. He offers to cut them in, keeping them submissive, keeping them low.
Yeah.
And
Staying
offers
in
to cut
charge.
them in for 70-30.
Counter offers with 70-40.
And John rolls it like 80-40. Okay.
And I'm just like, okay, like I would have loved to see that come up later. It's like, how are we going to divvy this up? Yeah, exactly. So although they seem to be good trackers, they seem to have like a different number system than we're used to, at least.
Hey, maybe they're just flexible about number systems.
Yeah.
Maybe you just don't assume what someone's maxima are.
Yep. Erin goes tinkering with the device that she has stolen from the marketplace.
Because they took that away to prevent any more competition from getting the same idea, and she's been poking at it.
She finds that there's a private message in there for her after she logs in with her Peacekeeper
Security
credentials.
key.
Yep. And there's a message from the great leader who is offering her basically full amnesty under the condition that she comes back with Moya and with Crichton and the prisoners.
If she turns them in, then she'll get to retire with honors, and her commission will be restored. Do you notice that she stands at attention?
Oh,
when she sees his
I hadn't noticed that. No,
his hologram, like she immediately, just as she was telling Jelena in PK Tech Girl, previously directed by Tony Tilse.
Oh yes,
Chin up, eyes locked.
Perfect poise. And John, he tries to be the voice of reason. You know he's full of shit, right? Because we know his last experience with Chris.
Yeah, he gives her his
oath
word
as a
oath as a peacekeeper, and Crichton's like, oh, we know what that's worth because
that's literally what you said while we were watching it.
It was, and it was echoed immediately by Crichton.
You should be a writer for this show.
Well,
all you need is a time travel device to go back 23 years and replace Douglas.
Who knows? Maybe I have, or maybe I will.
Whoa.
So, Dargo arrives on the planet. He's found himself a welder's mask of some sorts. And he decides to start for a walk. And we have a scene of where the blood trackers actually catch the scent. It's the woman who catches the scent of Dargo.
Rorf.
And there's a scene of dramatic walking across the sand.
Yeah.
Where there's
these did not work for me. Where somehow Dargo also senses danger. You have no idea of the distances.
Yep.
I did sort of like that the Dargo is wearing that sort of mask, those, I guess, against the light, but also it was Australian summer and he probably just couldn't handle the prosthetics.
That's a good point, yeah.
He has so much on his face.
Because it's interesting, because it must be blisteringly hot there. However, the impression I got was that it's much more a cold desert than a warm desert. I don't know. None of it struck me as being particularly hot there.
I see what you mean, actually, because everyone was wearing very warm clothes.
Exactly.
The yak hair covered Vorcarians. No one's complaining about the heat. Erin's doing fine throughout all this.
Yeah, very good point. I had forgotten about that completely.
Sebaceans lack the gland necessary to regulate extreme thermal increases.
It was still filmed in Australia, and it must have been an absolute nightmare. So I hope that Anthony Simcoe got a little USB fan on the inside of his his helmet. Do you notice that he was flying the Prowler again?
Yes.
So apparently Erin did not put a lock on it.
She lets other people use it.
Well, there seems to be somebody else who's interested. We see one of the locals spot Dargo's landing in the Prowler and drive off with his little cart.
Yeah.
I like those little carts.
It's just a quad with some cloth hanging over it. It's I noticed that later on in the episode. So it's just got a little frame and some cloth. It's
just a little quad bike.
It works. So Dargo surprises one of the two blood trackers and is immediately ambushed by the other one.
How did any of this work? Okay, so somehow he realized that he was in a kill zone and he managed to flank a sniper in a dune sea and then get caught.
Then get jumped by the spotter. Yeah, it's weird.
We return to the garage, which I love this garage. It's there's so much going on there. There's smoke and there's lights and there's all these people working. Where
Furlow makes another sly offer to buy the craft of Crichton,
or maybe he can trade up because I've just
so happens I recently come by a second-hand prowler. Might interest you.
Second-hand prowler.
Yeah, funny that. It's
Furlow is so great. She's such a liability. Absolutely don't ever do business with Furlow. But
she seems to have noticed that the craft has picked up some peculiar signatures.
Yes, she talks about. Let me see.
Wormhole stuff.
Writing down. Yeah. It was prophasic distortion.
Almost like it had been close to a proto-wormhole.
Which she apparently knows about.
Yeah, apparently there's more science.
Oh, well, that's what he needs to be investigating. Like,
Yeah.
solar flares are dying down, and he wants to get back up there before they're gone.
Yeah, well, they might not last a day. Well, when do they start up again?
Yeah, in 4.8 cycles.
Yeah.
Regular as clockwork.
Yep,
Like she's always so positive and like, oh, here comes some great news when she's delivering bad news.
Very true. Meanwhile, Dargo is being brought in by the two blood trackers. Crichton tries to... shut it. Crichton tries to...
Yes, Your Majesty. Another guest appearance by Case Cat in the Throes of the Fourth Sensation.
She wants the food cubes.
And Crichton tries to shout them down again, but they're not so easily bullied this time.
No, and this is where we find out that the Christmas tree was actually the torture chair, because they strap Dargo into it,
yeah,
and immediately start getting to extract information from him regarding the other prisoners.
They're proper like vicious and violent.
Yep.
These Vorcarians, like, oh, we like bloods.
We like spilled blood.
Especially someone else's. They do a little bit of cutting on Dargo, who stoically undergoes it all.
They mention that his hide is thick, but grab his tentacles and go, these look sensitive.
Yes. He doesn't like flinch at all. It's like, I don't think he might not even been in his prosthetics for this scene, as far as we can know.
Oh no, that's not fair to the great actor Anthony Stemko, whose eyes always do all the work.
And they were closed in the entire scene.
Yes, but they were emotionally closed.
Yeah.
There was enormous restraint in the way he closed his eyes. There was such pain.
Yes.
Oh, it was a captivating eyelid experience. But John jumps to the rescue because he sees that they've just cut into his tentacles, and that's dangerous for Luxons.
Yes.
Because the blood is dark.
Yep.
And that needs to be cleared. Otherwise, how that works?
No idea.
Well, are there any creatures that we know that have that?
Clear blood? Not that I'm aware of.
No, not clear blood. But I mean, kelp. Seaweed. There is a kind of, I mean, it's algae, right? And there's a variant of seaweed that I know that is unicellular, like it's a single
it's
cell.
Huge thing. Yeah.
Right. So it's only got one cell membrane, that's the skin, and on the interior it's just lots and lots of pores, and there's all this open soup. But it has this sort of gel in its skin that when it's cut open, it reacts with seawater specifically, to act as a sealant.
Okay, that's useful.
I mean, he sort of looks like a cephalopod with his tentacles,
I suppose. But I'm sure he's more multicellular. But yeah, Crichton basically takes over the torture. He bluffs off the blood trackers.
Threatens Dargo, humiliates him while torturing him by squeezing.
In a threat by I'm squeezing your hurting tentacle. And yes, he just skillfully applies first aid by squeezing it until the blood indeed runs clear.
Percussive first aid, an unusual strategy.
Yeah, I mean, he tried it doing the chest bumping on Dargo the last time.
Yes, that's right. All of his first aid is percussive.
Yeah.
When one thing works on something, you try it again. He's fortunately briefly assuaged the suspicions of the blood trackers, who noticed, by the way, that Dargo called him Crichton.
Your name's Crichton?
Yeah, Butch Crichton.
I think they might be getting suspicious about the fact that he is involved with him. I mean, they certainly are suspicious about that.
There's plenty of suspicion to go around because Aaron, back at the garage, notices that one of the workers is poking around the interior of the cockpit.
Trying to extract the flight data.
And it's someone, I mean, I don't know exactly why she recognized that he was in...
The guy's mask gets knocked off and he's got bright yellow eyes, which apparently is a thing because nobody else seems to have those.
But we never see anybody else's eyes. They're always wearing those goggles.
It's also never mentioned at all. She gets knocked over and just at that point a solar flare comes over, which blinds her, I suppose.
Yeah, she comes up. She tries to continue the fight with this dude who realizes, she can't see shit.
So the thing I noticed very much about the scene is there was dramatic Foley in here. It's it was totally over the top.
It was like a
smack,
Hong Kong
boom,
wuxia
flash.
film.
Yeah.
There's all of this excited, directionless drumming to indicate the excitement. But I've got to say, while I didn't love the music in this scene, I loved the music throughout the rest of the episode, because when the Vorcarian blood trackers first arrive, like there's this cool like hard rock electric guitar sting, which
it's the dramatic sand walking scenes as well.
Yeah.
It's all very heavy metal.
Heavy metal western. It's so cool.
Eren is now blinded, and Furlow actually knocks the guy off who was fighting with Eren.
Kills him dead. Like she pokes him.
Like pokes him twice with a stick, and whatever he was, he's dead
now.
Which seems a bit weird. Again, like we have no idea who this person is, what they were doing, why they were in for this. It's
right. I guess we're supposed to infer that it's a bounty hunter, just like
Might
the
have been,
Vorcarians are. There's probably a lot more. They've found these things on these bounty hunter beacons on several other planets as well.
On Moya, meanwhile, a glowing Zahn wanders back into command, much to the chagrin of Rigel, who is just like immediately clasps his hand over his head because he's like offended by her nakedness or something.
Are you decent? And she teases him because she's fully dressed, and she goes, "No, I'm not wearing a scrap.
I'm as nude as a newborn baby."
Then go away and don't insult my eyes with your naked blue extremities.
Which ones in particular don't you like?
And she like immediately clamps his hands over his eyes.
So much fun.
She does a little bit of ear brow nuzzling and...
And she learns from him that while she was busy having the time of her life... Yeah. Oh, sunbathing, nice. Some shit's gone down on the planet, so it's time for Zahn to go down to the planet where...
more dramatic sand walking.
Oh, yeah, that's... Like, it's such a great location. It's such a beautiful expanse, and it's so cool to see these aliens in like a real natural environment. Although I've got to say, I thought that her makeup while she was out in the desert looked a little bit simplified. You'd see her from a distance. I can imagine that. They wouldn't go for the full Monty when she's going to get sand in her face.
No. There's another solar flare. She grabs her hands and she rubs it over her head again. And it's like, it seems to make her disappear from the view of, or at least from the senses of the blood trackers.
Yes, exactly. Because she has the same sort of, I guess, sense of danger that Dargo had when he landed. She does this, it's this sort of shrouding gesture with blue energy over her body. But immediately after that, a solar flare hits and she just zonks out.
Yeah, she's back into the photongasm.
Photogasms
again, yep.
But it's good fortune that the Vorcarians are out there tracking her and not back at their lair.
Because Dargo is breaking free of his restraints.
Yeah, as Crichton discovers when he actually went over to free him, but he doesn't get the chance.
No.
Dargo accuses him of turning the tables on them, torturing him.
Right, where he's
at him.
Yeah, where he's like, dude, I was doing what I could in the circumstances.
Thank me tomorrow. I saved your ass today.
You tortured me.
I saved you.
I did my best. I was trying to help. And why are you always being such a hard ass? Why are you being so difficult?
Yeah.
And they actually have a bit of a moment there.
After John once again climbs out of harm's way.
Yeah, Dargo seems
to
be vertically challenged or something, despite being very tall.
Like his whole thing is to get out of danger from this armed Lux is to climb a ladder.
Yeah.
And then have a chat with them. And they, like you say, they sort of open up to each other. Like Dargo is continually disappointed by John. And I mean,
right,
he's not wrong.
Well, we have no idea what Dargo's expectations are. That's the whole thing. It's like he never says anything about like why John disappoints him.
No, that's true.
It's like he's being judged by alien standards, and I think that actually comes across quite well.
Earlier on in this particular episode, like Dargo very firmly and he was right. We should move on. We should never stay anywhere too long. No. Let's get going. And Crichton decided to stay and decided not to. They don't make a point of it, but he was endangering everybody else just by staying on this planet.
Right. And Crichton kind of concludes that Dargo just wants to be the boss. It's like he wants to be the top dog. And I mean, it doesn't really get resolved. He doesn't agree to that.
No, exactly.
But they do decide that, like, if we're not going to be friends, at least we can be allies. And they actually introduce him to the concept of handshake.
Is such a, like, this idea, these two men realizing this about each other, like it's not going to work between us. We're not going to be friends. Although John does come back to him and like, have I ever come at you with a weapon?
Right. Yes.
And that shuts Dargo up because
no, he hasn't. And like the opposite is quite true. It's like it has happened quite a few times when Dargo's just being like, ready to go at him,
which affects Dargo much more than he lets on. I think because that really. Yeah.
Well, it puts him in. Yeah, it puts Crichton's actions in a different perspective. It's like it shows him. It's like Crichton's never shown any malice towards him.
Yeah.
Just like
at worst incompetence. But okay, so or we don't like each other. But
I don't bear you any malice, or what is it? Is that the right word?
Yeah. Friendship is a lot to ask, but how about respect?
Allies, I mean, you'd think they already were allies, but at least at this point it gets officially confirmed, I suppose, with a handshake, which he has to explain to him.
Yes, that's what Warriors on Earth did to show they're not holding weapons.
And you see Dargo looking at the sword he's holding.
Okay, holds it in the other hand.
Passes it over, and they have their little handshake.
It's rather a meaningful gesture. Although I know this is a nitpick, and I don't want to be that kind of guy, but he did have Dargo shake the kid's hand on IET on that planet. You want to shake his hand?
Hey, kid, want to shake his hand?
Erin is still messing with the Peacekeeper beacon while she's talking to
Furlow, who's smoking her cigar and still doing the sort of head wiggle. Oh, and Furlow,
big eyes,
do you know anything about cyber manipulation?
Yes, we do.
Butch and Sundance have their final stand when they return back to the outskirts of that great city and immediately come under fire.
And we finally see Dargo using his Keyblade.
Yes.
He actually shoots it. It's like nice little blues, flashy build-up thing. There's a great shootout with the two blood trackers. I think there's a few microwaves in the background and lots of mugs which are being knocked about.
Yes, I have a lot of notes about this because this whole scene, I was just sitting there while they were having the shootout in the Space Burning Man cosplayers convention. So we've got lots of crates. We've got a shopping cart, microwaves. Yes, I noticed a sausage maker and what I think is a Singer sewing machine. I noticed it even in Furlow's garage. Like she's got it looked like a writing desk with or an electrical engineering desk with some junk on it.
I thought it was an old-fashioned telephone exchange or something like that.
Oh, that's even better.
Something like I know. Like my first thought was piano, but then it's
right? Like stand up.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So everything's getting shot up. Yeah, no wonder they probably just raided the local Radio Shack.
It's just a random shoot. Oh, for the scenery. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all again in the same. It's just one set they built out there in the desert, and they've been using it for every outdoor shot because it's this huge technological city. But no, we're just going to shoot everything in the dusty little plaza out in front of it, which actually sees very little traffic. But I mean, I suppose it's like there's nothing out there in the bloody desert anyway.
I'm thinking about like American cities that have a sprawl, which like European cities don't have that much, right?
No.
You've got suburbs, but like the sort of sprawl where the density decreases and there's more sand and roughage, and that's where you find your garage and your car lots.
But this is a very strict
vertical.
Cutoff. It's like here's the building. Then there's like this little plaza around it with a few merchants who are not selling anything obvious. And then there's just a stone arch, and then there's the desert.
Well, maybe it's like a class system. Maybe like the city itself is air conditioned, and anybody who's living outside, that's just the dumps,
but you'd expect there to be more people then, and everybody's like more or less neatly dressed. It doesn't seem to be anything going on. But no, it's just like I know I'm just nitpicking the fact that they just like put a scene out here.
The world building. I mean, not that there's much world to be built. There's mostly world destroying as everybody's shooting everything.
Erin just opens the door and wanders out straight into the middle of the firefight.
Crichton realizes that she needs help. Yep. And this is after like Crichton and Dargo have been discussing like how they're going to resolve their Butch and Sundance moment.
Yeah.
They know that they're being outflanked and Crichton offers several times like, Dargo, give me the gun, get out of here.
They're trying to outmaneuver us.
Give me your weapon. I'll cover you. At least you can get out of here.
Crichton, you are my ally. I will not abandon you.
Aww.
No, totally. Aww. It's like he's immediately gone into the full weight of the alliance, I suppose, that they just forged.
Yeah. Also, exactly how two people can pin two other people down. I know that Crichton doesn't have a weapon.
No.
But it seems like they would have plenty of opportunities to make a run for it. The weapons don't have a very fast recycle time.
Especially since the blood trackers are running all over the place. You can see them constantly switching positions and running and moving, and the other two, but no, they have them pinned down.
Which is supposedly like strategic, but it's just like, oh, this one's going left and now it's going right.
He does this weird little hop right in the middle of his thing, and I'm just like, okay.
But Erin has a solution. She turns on the beacon again, and now it's Cray saying, oh, no, never mind.
The Peacekeeper command carrier assigned to recover the 3 escaped prisoners has been called home on other business. Therefore, the reward offer for the fugitives has been officially withdrawn.
Bounty's cancelled. Apparently she's been hacking the beacon, and it's like the 2 blood trackers immediately stop dead in their blood tracks.
Because then what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you hungry?
Not that hungry.
They're all yours, Butch!
No.
It's great.
It's like it seems to be a little bit too much effort for the meal.
I've been saying big dogging. They are dogs.
Like, they are,
that's their behavior.
So. Yep.
I mean, Crichton even remarks on it earlier when Erin asks how he knew to take this approach with him. Yeah, my dad had 2 Dobermans.
Yeah.
And yeah, you gotta big dog them to gain their respect.
Let them know that you're the boss. So as Radiant Zahn wanders in,
informing them that the light show is over because otherwise she'd still be
happy.
You sure?
If they hadn't, I'd still be indisposed.
Indisposed.
So yeah, they've missed a window of opportunity to go for more research data on the wormhole.
Yeah, the interaction of the solar flares and the atmosphere, and we get no more resolution between John and Dargo.
No, they seem to have. Well, they've arrived at a point where they are comfortable with this, I suppose.
As have John and Erin, whom we next see back in the garage climbing over the module. That looks so good when they're doing that.
Yes, it's a lovely little thing.
I mean, it makes the module feel real when you're climbing on things. They feel real, sort of like puppets.
I mean, you do notice it's a little bit flimsy, which actually gets lampshaded by Furlow commenting that it's not much of a thing. And
outmoded alloys.
Yep,
Hardly looks space-worthy. Primitive alloys, no hedge drive. This thing belongs in a collection, not in space.
Oh, I love Furlow so much. It's Furlow that John has to talk to. Erin says that she had the idea to reprogram the beacon, but that the reprogramming was done by Furlow, and I have a debt that I can't repay. And can you settle it? He walks over to her like he's got a little swagger there. He's clearly wearing a sports bra.
What?
Well, you can see him sort of like flexing his guns, like, "Hey, how can we deal with this? Because we can't pay that. Can we maybe work something out?" And he pops open a can of Coca-Cola Light.
I mean, you got that vibe from Furlow as well, because she gives him this like speculative look and like, well, maybe we can work something out.
But it's not his rockin' hot bod that she wants.
No, it's like actually Crichton who suggests to share the data that he collected on the wormhole with her.
Nah, exclusive rights or no deal.
You're handing it over. He reluctantly does so,
and he does one last bit of big dogging as he walks off.
Because
I can start from scratch.
I can get this data again.
Yeah, because he knows how he got there. There was a lot about, some troubling gender stereotypes that he says, "Hey, I don't make the rules," and Erin, well, you do seem to be familiar with them.
Yes. So I noticed a thing in this episode. It's like there seems to be a bit of a theme of temptation in here.
Temptation? How do you see?
I mean, there's lots of... I mean, at first there's like Crichton being tempted to get into the wormhole.
Yeah.
And...
Erin by Crace's offer.
Yeah, which we actually didn't talk about. They actually have a discussion where she was tempted and he goes like, it's like bullshit, and goes like, yeah, but it was nice to consider it for a moment and think that it might have been genuine. Because he specifically mentioned that like...
when he says honorable retirement, he means...
fry my brain to go into the zombie state.
Radiation-induced brain fever. Yeah. Whoa.
She knows, like, she's not coming back. And, like...
Yeah.
But, it seemed to be a little of a thing. And you had that here as well.
Zahn, who succumbed to the temptation.
Her temptation was more than sated,
Yeah. The only one who was constantly dissatisfied, I guess, was Dargo.
Yes, although, he got his resolve.
Yeah, the thing that I find so sort of most telling is that Dargo went down to get them.
Yeah.
So even though like he doesn't really care about Erin and Crichton, he does care a little bit, enough to
to not leave.
Yeah,
I mean,
not leave without them.
I mean, to be honest, like maybe the others wouldn't have let him leave. I don't know how that's never really established. Do they vote? Do they like go by consensus?
Right.
It's never really established how they make a decision of when to go and when to leave. Because like
they don't really have a plan. I
no.
guess.
I mean, the option was to like they would have definitely left Rigel behind if he hadn't had like taken a part of Moya in that other episode.
Yeah, I think Crichton.
He might have gotten back for it anyway, but the others, yeah. I mean, technically, Pilot has a lot of power in that regard, but then again, Pilot is very subversive, submissive, I suppose.
Yes,
like,
he's a servicer, as Dargo says.
Yes,
a servicer.
He does as he's told, and he doesn't like. I mean, I've never seen him like go like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Moya is the more willful one, certainly now that she has her baby to look after.
Yes. But we still have no idea how much actual power she herself has.
I guess we'll find out as we get deeper into the series.
Let's hope so.
Okay, so we've talked about how we should more formally like reflect on the episode and the series so far.
Yeah.
So we have like the Willies and the Woodies.
Yes.
That's one of the ones that we do. But before we get there, I wanted to check with you because it's your first time.
Yeah.
First, like, do you think that you understand these characters better? Are there questions that have been opened up about the world, about the characters? Like we've seen that apparently the Peacekeepers are a known force around here.
Yeah.
That they've left bounties. Like, were there any questions that it evoked for you?
Well, I mean, it was resolved a little bit with Dargo, but I kept getting thrown back into like his posturing, his playing the boss being resolved, and that seems to be like a thing that keeps coming back and never really gets any traction.
Right?
I mean, there was a little bit about that now. Let's see how that develops in the future. But
yeah, I guess we still have to sort of figure out how much of that is his personality, is culture, is because we've seen like extreme vulnerability with him as well, and anguish and sensitivity. So is it performative? Is this how he deals with anxiety? Is this how authority is established in their culture?
Yeah. And of course, there's the whole power dynamic within the group, which we were just talking about, like who decides when they leave, where they go, and what's going to happen. But again, that's like, I guess, part of the format of the show. There is no like ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, although that's literally what they're doing.
But just because they're hungry and horny and looking for opportunities.
Exactly. And there's no actually overacting theme. I mean, I guess the looking for a way home theme is coming back a little bit more in this episode.
Yeah, right? He's actually looking for a way home. Like previously he tried to get like a map or a star chart, but
now he's like making scientific progress towards doing that same thing. So,
well done, Crichton. Finally remembering the thing that you've been saying every week in the opening credits.
It was just a recording.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, Willie or Woody? What do you have?
I have both. Willie was definitely
both the Willie and the Woody.
The Willy was definitely the torture scene for me. That was just like,
the whole
like the whole creepiness and like, I don't dig that kind of thing. It's like, it's like,
he was powerless and they were so like malevolent and vicious about it.
Callous and gleeful about it, which is like not a very happy thing. And my Woody was definitely also with Dargo when he was finally got to use his Keyblade in a good shootout.
His terrible sword that
was actually pretty good gun by the looks of it. I mean, he can't aim for shit, but you know.
None of them can.
No, but that's like the law of
the Peacekeeper school of marksmanship.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, Willy wise. But for the Woody, I'm kind of torn. I actually really liked the
Furlow, but
no, that's the other one. So I was going to sort of lead up to that, but no, it's definitely Furlow. Like I also like the Vorcarians. Yes. They're written kind of dumb. Yeah, but like. It's interesting that we have this species with these gender roles, and they're an older couple, and they're clearly a mated pair, and they're bounty hunters, like they're working together. Like that's a really cool relationship. And not one that you see very often. It's an interesting counterpoint to the much younger Crichton and Aaron, who pretend to be the sort of same thing. But yeah, like I imagine that these have been together doing this for 20 years and apparently not making a lot of money because they can negotiate for shit.
They might be using alternate numbering systems.
Yeah, but if they negotiate down from 60-40 to 119-9, then nobody wins.
No, they went from 70-30 to 70-40. So.
And then from 80 to 80-40. That was John's counter offer. So they agreed to count. So how does 80-40 versus 70-30?
80-40 70-40 is, I would say
120 in total. And what's 8 divided by 12? Get it back to 100.
Oh,
8 divided by 12?
It's two-thirds.
60.
8 by 12 is 2/3.
Okay, yeah, so it's 2/3. Okay, so then it's like, okay, so it goes from 70-30 to 66-33. Yeah. Would 70-40 have been a better deal then? I don't know.
Definitely, yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. But no, Furlow definitely gets the Woody. I love her so much. She's so sleazy. She's so laid back. Yeah. Like, she's a businesswoman. And, like, these are the kind of characters. You would never see someone like this in... Oh, I said you'd never see them in Star Trek now. You've got Quark a little bit, but...
Right, but she's much less of a caricature than Quark is.
Which is weird, right? Because she's super duper a caricature.
True, but... And I loved her Chin-Jockstrap.
Yeah, okay. We got another couple of nice butt shots on John. So 3 candidates for the Woody there.
All right.
And that's the story so far, Farscape.
We'll see you next week with episode 112, Rhapsody in Blue, when Zahn is asked to help an outpost of fellow Delvians attempting to avoid the madness that threatens them.
Yes! Oh, I'm so looking forward to that. You can find us on So Farscape on Twitter and Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And on sofarscape.com, where you can find all of our other episodes. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
So Farscape, so good.